Hi there, Gordon here. I hope you're all okay in cyber world. This is a very quick video. It's just to tell a couple of stories about some things that happened to me when I was a Jehovah's Witness. And what I'm aiming to do is just to show you that, in truth, whatever Jehovah's Witnesses profess to be, whatever they say that they are, and whatever each person thinks that they are, they're not. And they're certainly very, very far away from the reality that they project onto us. What I mean by that is that we're all human. Jehovah's Witnesses are no different to normal humans, except probably in the thing that because they pretend so much, because they pretend to be holier than thou, because they are absolutely shit scared that somebody might find out that they're actually just like everybody else. They focus so much on that I think it kind of distorts themselves. They become distorted. What I mean by that is, like, if you imagine a balloon and imagine squeezing a balloon, trying to squeeze a balloon, trying to make it smaller, which is what all religion does. It kind of tries to not allow people to express themselves properly. So you're squashing the balloon like this, and what happens is it starts popping out in strange and ugly distortions because it's not its natural state. If you just allow the balloon to be, you get a beautiful, rounded shape. Squash it, distort it, put it under pressure, and you get strange aberrations. And this is what happens, I believe, with Jehovah's Witnesses, is that their life is so distorted and so under pressure and so unnatural that you start seeing strange things. And isn't it not a surprise then that there seems to be an overly large amount or high incidence of child abuse, of alcohol abuse, of suicide, of depression, of drug abuse, and I'm talking about perhaps prescription drugs. They have a higher incidence of all of those than just normal people. Why? Because normal people are just that nice round balloon, and they are completely distorted. So what I think is this funny game that happens in the congregation that I noticed. Well, when you're in the congregation, you know what everybody else is up to. You kind of, well, I certainly did as a kid. I knew what all my peers were up to. So I knew that all of the people who I knocked around with were bad. I mean, we were naughty boys and girls. But then we looked to the adults of the congregation, and I always used to think, oh my goodness, I'm definitely going to die because I look at these adults and they're so perfect and they speak so nicely and they're always talking about, oh, well, blessed be Jehovah, and, let's go out on the preaching work. But then you discover as you get older that they're actually not any different to you. And every now and again something comes out, this whole thing, this whole lifestyle that somebody had, or somebody was getting absolutely drunk or addicted to drugs or shagging about. There's a lot of shagging about going on in our congregation, that's for sure. Well, let me tell you a story about a friend of mine. When I was 16, something like that, I had this crazy idea to try and overcome the fact that I was such a bad person. I was evil incarnate. So what I decided to do, as we do, I decided to do a month auxiliary pioneering. And I think it was kind of my way of paying back or trying to become holy. I thought maybe if I could do a month, if anyone can do a month of auxiliary pioneering, then surely they must be close to God. So I did a month's pioneering with a couple of my friends. Now, one of them was an excessive drinker. He used to drink such a lot. And a good Jehovah's Witness, no. We were out in the bars every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, flirting with girls, chatting them up, whatever. My other friend, he also did a month's auxiliary pioneering, and I recall the very moment he got invited up onto the stage, the platform, and the elder was bigging him up. I'm not mentioning his name. How wonderful it was to see you doing it a month. I think he did the month just before us. And he was stood there and he had his Bible clutched in his hands, covering his willy actually, as it happens, which is probably quite appropriate. He had his Bible in front of his willy, and he was saying, well, you know, it's been a great experience. I'm filled with the Holy Spirit, and I feel wonderful and I feel marvelous. Okay. Then afterwards, and then this was a while after, because this guy, when we both got kicked out of the organisation, we became good friends. And he told me the story of whilst he went on an auxiliary pioneering month for one reason only, so that he could go out on the doors with a married sister. And they were shagging like rabbits. Okay, so what they would do is they would go out and do the hour, the token hour, or 2 hours, I suppose. If you're doing auxiliary pioneering, you've got to write a bit more. They would do 2 hours in the street, and then they would do 2 hours in the bed. And they were at it like rabbits, as I say, whilst at the same time going around telling people how wonderful God was. Now, what am I a little bit crazy? But is that any way to behave? Is that any way to behave? Now, this is not an isolated incident. Let me tell you, it's not an isolated incident, because I know and I knew of many, many people who were doing very similar things, myself included. Why? Because it's not allowed. And listen, you tell anybody who's 16, okay, who's just got all the equipment downstairs and it's in full working order, and it's going, the equipment's going, use me, use me, use me, use me, let's get into action, okay? It's like trying to stop the tide. And yet, what did the witnesses say? No, 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 no. Nothing. No heavy petting, no nothing. Not even a girlfriend, unless she's in the Lord. Most of them ended up in the club more than in the Lord. But it was like we were trying not to do something that was just innately so natural that you just couldn't help it. But then we had to, like everybody else, pretend that everything was great. We had to pretend that we were ever so holy, lots of beard rubbing and yes, and I think Jehovah would be thinking, the question is, what would Jehovah be thinking if there was a Jehovah? Watching all of his people clutching the Bibles, putting their hands up and saying, yes, brother, and then whilst they're outside, shagging, drinking, drugging, and anything else, abusing. Is that a one-off? No. I think that's what happens. One of the problems that we have when we're Jehovah's Witnesses, we look to other people. We know that we're bad. We know we're bad inside. We're black. We are horrible. But we have to pretend, because it seems that everybody else is managing. So we look around and we say, there must be something wrong with me, because everybody else seems to be absolutely wonderful, following all the rules and ever so holy. And I'm shit. I look down, I'm shit. So we pretend, because we don't want to look stupid and we don't want to be found out, that's for sure. But little do we know that every other person in the congregation is doing the same. Everybody's looking at everyone else saying, Jesus Christ. Just like when I saw my friend up on the platform, clutching his Bible, his best suit on, talking about how holy he felt. I think I know which hole he was more interested in. But I was envious, and it made me feel bad. I felt terrible, because I thought, you know, with my life and what I'm doing and the hypocrisy that I'm living through, and there he is, a young man in his prime, working for Jehovah. And I felt really bad. And I think that's why I did it the month after. So I thought, well, maybe it'll work for me. Maybe I'll be able to wear a suit like that. And maybe I'll be able to clutch my Bible with that religious clutchiness that people have. Hold it like this here. This is the truth. So that was just something that happened. amongst many, 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 and many other things. But I remember one pioneer he was pioneering, and he was having a shaggy affair whilst he was pioneering, and it was like he couldn't be more holy. He couldn't have been more spiritual, more on the ball. But I think there was a woman in the congregation that was on his ball, or balls. So listen, why am I telling this story? Well, if you think back to the time, if you're still in the congregation, or you were in the congregation and you're loaded with this guilt about, oh, how bad was I, and how holy everybody else is, and how good the Jehovah's Witnesses are. Hey, they're not. They're no better and they're no worse than anybody else. And in fact, like the metaphor of the balloon, the only thing that the Jehovah's Witnesses have that's worse or a worse situation than we have is that they are under magnificent and intense pressure not to do something. And when you say no, what happens is you automatically set up a desire for the thing that you're saying no to. You automatically set up an obsession. And this is the problem. When, you know, if you're on a diet and somebody says to you, look, you just eat anything. You can eat anything. Then you think, well, maybe today I might have a salad then. And tomorrow I might have some chocolate. But when you're on a diet and they say, no chocolate, it's prohibited to eat chocolate, what do? That's all you can think about. Right, chocolate, I can't have chocolate. Oh, God, I want some chocolate. Oh, I'd like a bit of chocolate. Oh, my God. Well, it's the same. Don't masturbate. All right? Don't masturbate. It's impossible. Well, I can remember being 16. That's all I could think about. It's the only thing I could think about. My God, I'm not allowed to masturbate. My God, I want to masturbate. I've got to masturbate. And then after you'd done the dirty deed, you used to feel like shit. I used to feel like shit, but I still did it because it's impossible not to. So this is where the Jehovah's Witnesses have got themselves into a sticky pickle because they're just as bad as everybody else, or just as good as everybody else, or just the same as everybody else, but they've got to be better. And that's just too much pressure for anybody. Even Jesus Christ wouldn't be able to do that. So I'll leave you with that, and I hope that helps a little bit just to ease the guilt, because we're all the same. See you later.